is a graduate student question. I would like, it's sort of a two-parter for everybody. I want you to say what you think is the biggest issue facing graduate students on campus and why you think graduate students should care about who the student body president is and vice president.
I think that's a tough question because I think it's department-based. You know, we've reached out to departments like the physics department, and they have different concerns from people we've talked to in CFA. And I think it's the same for your undergraduate, but I think an overarching concern is just relaying that we want to hear your independent concerns. We want to know what your department is lacking, what we can do as a student government to create a plan of action to go forth, even if that is just contacting the department and saying, hey, your students are contacting us because they know that we're here for them and we want to relay this to you and we want to work with your department. And so some of the concerns, one of the largest concerns I think that I had heard from the history is just about the health insurance. I think that was a really big concern 2 years ago. Transportation, parking services. One of the things that we'd like to also address is to push forward for opening up the parking lot. I don't know if you work in Mellon Institute or not. A lot of students, a lot of graduate students in Mellon Institute are worried about the safety of their vehicle as well as walking to their vehicle. So making sure that we open that up after hours for graduate students who are running experiments late. And I think, so can I ask you to repeat the second part of that question? I think it's every student's civic duty to be informed of their leaders. And you should care because we care. We care about the graduate students. We both have graduate mentors that we do research with. And they are on the equal playing level. You know, even though you do have a graduate student assembly, it really is that collaborative effort of Student Senate and GSA to come together in an effective manner. And you should care because that person, that president, that vice president has the ability to ensure that in an effective amount of time, we can come together and address any overarching issues that might come up that we can't foresee.
All right, I agree that is a bit of a loaded question because from my interaction with GSA is there's a lot of different concerns are very different across departments, but I think what's most relevant is of what are the biggest concerns that are related to the role of student body president and student body vice president. I think that's really the key of what we need to be able to address. And the big one that we are focusing on is the transportation issues, because so many grad students live off campus, and it's about figuring out the best ways for those who have cars. I believe it's around 85% of parking spaces are used on campus. I think that's about right. So there's still some underutilization of parking, as well as how to figure out the better shuttle systems to make sure that grads will be able to get to campus. And you know, department issues do vary. I would say the one that goes across all the board is funding. That's always an issue of how you can get your research funding, and if the federal cuts happen, then how that's going to affect the research of the grads. I would say that grads definitely need to care who their student body president is, because the student body president is the one that can work on initiatives that affect the entire body. The best work that has been done, I think personally, of reports that have been created and acted upon are committees and task force that have been organized and led by the student body president and vice president that bring both GSA members, grad students, Senate members, and undergraduate students together and work on full campus initiatives. And if you don't have a president that has that leadership ability and knows how to organize, then these initiatives won't be solved and no solutions will be implemented. So who you have as the president affects everything. It affects how the bodies operate, because the executive committee is run by the president. If you don't have someone who can do that, it will trickle down and it will affect graduate students.
Thank you. Go ahead. So this question is addressed to both groups, and it's kind of going specifically a little more into your initiatives. Say it's mid-semester of fall next year, you've been elected, everything's gone as you wanted it to, and you're kind of giving a mid-semester report. What things have been done, what things are in progress, and what is it really that you've done so the campus knows you're the president and can point out this has happened and these are happening?
So, like we said, a big thing that we're trying to improve, or we're trying to work on, is publicizing the things that we do. And I don't want to sound repetitive, but we really think that that's important, because at that point, we hope that people will see the changes that we've made already. We think that community building, our whole pillar about community building, are the things that we're going to try to start right away in the summer, because people tend to forget that the school year for us and the executive board can begin in the summer, so things are ready when the school year begins. So by mid-semester of fall year, we will already have implemented the cultural honors program, or like starting these Friday frenzies, or those might be in progress. Another big thing that we want done almost right away is improving our parents' weekend, because we think that weekends like that really target homes, hearts, like of the families. People who enjoy Parents' Weekend will be people who will hopefully, when they graduate, want to come back for weekends like that, and then that will increase alumni attendance to any events that we have on campus. So those are the types of things that we think will be done by that point. Transportation is always an ongoing issue, so that will be something that will still be in progress. We hope to be implementing a lot of things by that point, because before the weather gets really, really cold, we hope that a lot of our concerns about people getting better transportation to campus will be taken care of, or will be heavily in progress.
By the time that it's mid-semester break, we'll, if that's about 6 or 7 weeks, we will have had office hours at the fence or at the black chairs consistently each week, and people will know our faces because they'll know that we're there every week, and they'll have seen us and talked to us, and we'll be building that communication and transparency. Also, we'll be working on our Healthy Rewards program. We have already had multiple discussions about that, and we'll have had further, and hopefully be working out the finer details on how that will be set up. Also at this point, we have had our presidential dinner concerning diversity and meaningful engagement. There's like a whole list of things. Also, we will have had or be working on fine-tuning our graduate symposium. What we want to do here is have a kind of like a TOC, EOC type thing, where undergraduates and graduates who are interested in creating research relationships or any other type of research or relationships that are department-based, and have a website set up that is kind of a forum where people are allowed to post their jobs as a grad student and have undergrads reply to those responses.
I don't think you were missing anything. I just want to emphasize that if we are elected, it's important to note that even though we do give a mid-semester report in the fall, this is a job that, when you're elected, you get down and you start running. You run with your platform from the day that you know that you're elected. And you go in and you work with the president and the vice president to make sure that, and I've talked to Jared before, and he's very interested in transitioning whoever wins during the summertime. And so both Kelsey and I will be here in the summer if we are elected and working towards our initiatives.
Thank you.
So this is a question for Jake and Sangeeta. You guys talked about expanding like the shuttle services and the escorts. I believe that everyone who goes to the school is already paying too much. Where, if any, are you going to try to make cuts so that it doesn't all come out of our pocket?
Sure. When we're looking at trying to expand the shuttle and escort services, it's a dual-part system. It's making what we already have more efficient and looking at ways that we can responsibly expand. And this is going to be dependent on what happens with Port Authority. Depending on what happens with Port Authority will depend on the amount of money that that the school may decide to even put into the Port Authority system. In addition, in the last meeting that we had in Student Senate where Chief Ogden came in, he's been operating under budget for the past 3 years. It's something that he's very proud of. And so we can look at how he's been able to do that and see if there is any additional money that can be used within his given budget to be able to do these expansions. In addition, this goes to all of our initiatives. It's projected for next year that there is going to be over $100,000 in the Student Government Operating Reserve. This is money that you all have paid for the purpose of enriching your experience here at Carnegie Mellon, and there's still a large pool of money sitting there. Now, the purpose of these reserves is to make sure that there's certain years, if you have to overspend, we're still going to be okay. But as of right now, the reserves in the Student Government Operating Reserve, the Student Senate Reserve, and the GSA Reserve, there's way more than is needed to be able to do that. So we want to be able to utilize that money that students have already paid to be able to work on all of our initiatives. On what? Like it cuts across the board, or? Well, like just cuts in general, like across all of campus, or? The idea is to utilize the money that's already sitting there. So it's not about making cuts, it's about utilizing money that's already there, in addition to looking on making the actual like routes of where buses are going, making them more efficient. Like if we find that there's a route that like has maybe 2 people being dropped off and there's a better route, then we'll probably cut that route and have a more efficient route. But that's not cutting a service, that is just making the services that we have more efficient. So like you may not necessarily have to have a cut. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Just by blanket statement saying we have to cut in order to do something, that's not necessarily true.